Hello, everyone. It is another episode of Paranormal, and I am one of your hosts. I'm Rachel, and then we have
Kaz with the cool headset. Not really. These are my daughters, actually.
really.
You know what these are going to be really good for is when we do Estes, because when we do an Estes session with the Paranormal Seekers plug, I have the other ones. I have to constantly like push them into my ear. These ones, an atomic bomb could be going off, and I'm like, "Dark, dark, dark, dark." Like they're really good. I
The
just
other
have
ones that
this
I found
thing here.
floating around in the house here, so was a pair of J's, and they actually work really well. I prefer them over the other pair of headphones that we have. So that'll be fun. I like those ones.
Nice. Yeah. Sweet. Well,
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, we don't really have much going on in the world of the paranormal this week. For those of you who don't follow the Paranormal Seekers page, there was a post today, so March 2nd, about how I guess I don't want to really say it's all me, but I was able to sit down with the CBC Gem show Ghosting, and yeah, I was able to film an episode with them, so that's pretty cool. That will be out on March 21st, and yeah, you'll just have to watch and see, because yeah, I don't know
that's
how it turned out,
it's
but
so
I'm gonna
exciting.
find out. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have
Yeah.
anything.
But it's not just pretty much it. Like I think there's something to be said about the Paranormal Seekers because we are sort of seeked out, no pun intended there with the name, by documentarists, I don't know if that's a word, TV shows, other podcasts to do guest spots. And I think that really speaks of the reputation of the team. So I think it's a big deal. Make it a big deal.
Yeah,
So,
and we will be also
yay.
filming it in the middle of this month with another bunch of college students looking to do a project. So that's what we do.
I love it.
I know.
I'm excited about that one.
I know. Speaking
Mainly
of,
because I am so excited to get going back out there and see some ghosts, but just because it's another documentary.
they're always fun, and we make people think twice about paranormal people because we don't look like goths.
And we're not like,
so
is
morbid.
the ghost? Like, we're like, yeah, that's actually just the wind blowing. Like, we actually investigate and try to debunk. We're not just like, that's it.
Yeah.
Go in there, Aaron, by yourself.
We could. We could. Oh my gosh. Well, today's episode is all about the paranormal and kids. So, kids who experience paranormal and even ghost children. Because, gotta make it a well-rounded topic and discussion.
Yes.
So,
I think so.
When you were little, like we'll say, we'll say kids are 16 and under, we'll say. Did you have any experiences?
Good. Yes, I grew up in a haunted house, as cliche as that is. The house that we lived in England, when my parents bought the house, the gentleman who lived there before had died in the house. And my father, it was a little bungalow. My father built the upstairs so that there were 2 bedrooms for my sister and I. And honestly, almost every night, you could hear someone walking down the stairs and like kind of shuffling along the carpet, and there'd be no one there. And so the stairs came down into the living room, and my parents were like, the amount of times we'd be sitting there watching TV and we'd hear someone coming down the stairs and they'd think it's me and they'd be like, go back to bed. And then there would be no one there. And my sister's pretty sure she saw him. His name was Wilf. Wilfred was the man who lived there. And I feel like I remember seeing him at the top of the stairs too. So both of our bedrooms looked out onto the landing on the top of the stairs. And I swear one day there was a man there. It's hard because sometimes you remember other people's stories, right? So I know for a fact I heard him walking around. My dad's a carpenter by trade, and he made us these little stools to sit on. And they had springs in them just to be more comfy. And so they were very distinct. If you knocked it over, it would go like it would make that twangy sound. And I remember my sister had 3 friends over at lunch one day, and we were all downstairs in the kitchen. No one else is in the house. And we heard a thump and that sound.
Oh.
And we went upstairs, and the stool was upside down in the middle of my sister's room. And one of her friends was out the front door so fast. She was on the sidewalk. She's like, I'm not coming back in. And she wouldn't come in. We had to take her stuff to her. But it was lovely. Like I never felt scared or threatened. I was never worried to be alone. And then prior to us moving to Canada, we moved in with my grandparents who lived the next street over. And my mom and I were standing in the hallway, and we were kind of having a heated discussion. And from the top of the wardrobe that was in the bedroom, 2 walkie-talkies flew off and landed in between us. And we were like, what the fuck? Instantly stopped our argument. And we were like, did he come with us? Like, we have no idea. I don't think he came to Canada with us. Maybe he's like, that's a bit far. But we're pretty sure he came to my grandparents. Exactly. Maybe he didn't fly. So yeah, but it was lovely. I never felt scared.
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, all those things happened. We witnessed lots of things. He loved playing with the light switch. He would turn the lights up and down, up and down, up and down. You have to yell at him. And it was so funny. He'd be like, knock it off, and it would stop. So I don't know if he just like pissing us off, or if like he was fascinated by it. I don't know. But so many times I'd hear my dad yelling, and it was because he was just playing with this light. Unreal.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't have a ghost in my house. At least I don't know. Maybe I didn't. I didn't pay attention. But like they said, my grandparents' house was haunted. I never had an experience there, but everybody said it was. Other people had experiences. My grandparents would tell me about their experiences. I was there every single weekend. I spent like Friday to Sunday there, and never once have I had an experience there. When I was probably about 8 or 9, about that, we lived in a house in Curtis that had a sunken family room. So sunken family room means that it's below ground, but the windows are ground level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would see, and we had we had 2 backyards. We had a grass backyard, and then we had a pool backyard. So we had this big in-ground pool. And I remember that I would always see legs, like people running to like from the grass backyard towards the pool. And of course I'd be like, oh my gosh, there's people in the backyard. They're running towards the pool. And my parents would look, and there would be no one there.
What?
I don't know. Weird, eh? I do remember I was probably the same age. And I do remember one night that I don't remember. I don't remember why I woke up or how I woke up, or why I put my head underneath the blanket afterwards. But I remember vividly that at some point in the middle of the night, I was awake and I had my head under the blankets, and this was like a crocheted blanket. So there was holes, and when I was looking out these holes, and I could see someone standing at the foot of my bed staring at me, and I was fucking terrified.
My God. But
like, I was too scared to move, and I know I was watching. I know it was a man. And at first I thought it might have been like my brother or my dad, but the house was so quiet. Like you would hear them breathing, literally. And then I remember going 1, 2, 3 and taking the blanket off and gone.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
So that was pretty much my experiences. And that could have been why I am who I am today.
Mhm.
Right? So I don't know. That's just what I grew up with.
Well, I distinctly remember, this is in England. My friend, I'd gone over to her house and we had gone over to the neighbor's house because they had kittens. And so we go in and we go into the living room and there was a box on the floor with the kittens. And so the cat was really friendly and she was letting us sort of play with the kittens. And then all of a sudden, the mum cat changed. She's just friggin' hunched and was hissing at something in the room. And it felt like all of a sudden someone had opened the window and this massive draft came in. So the mom and the girl who lived there looked at each other, and the mom's like, I think you girls need to leave now. And then the TV came on, and we were like, what? And this is, okay, this would be late 80s, early 90s, probably very early 90s. So there's not remotes. Like, this is, you'd have to go over and turn the TV on.
Yeah.
And so, but we were like, okay. And then all of a sudden, this toy on the floor, it was like I think it was like a policeman toy, started going off. And the cat is losing her absolute mind, but not at us. She's in general. And we're like, what's going on? Like, what is happening? I can't remember exactly what the girl said, but she alluded to the fact like, oh, the man's here or something. And we're like, what the heck? So the mom's like, get out of my house right now, kids. And we're like, what the? And then as we were leaving, we heard a door slam. So later on, my friend told me that their house is extremely haunted. It actually had a book written about it, and the laughing policeman doll was said to be possessed. This stuff I didn't know exactly at the time, but yeah, crazy stuff. And I now, like, I've got goosebumps now. I was like, I didn't understand it at the time, but the
Gee.
mom, distinctly remember her looking at her child and then she's like, you girls need to leave now, like instantly, because they knew
Oh
this
my God.
man was there. And I was like, what the? Yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't know what was going on at the time. But it was a series of very strange things that happened. And now, like, doing what we do, I would lose my mind.
That's
It was
crazy.
really scary. Yeah.
That's
And the
crazy.
fact that they live there and they're like, do, this creepy man comes in and
Oh,
terrorizes
yeah.
us.
Oh yeah, he's here. Time to leave for a little bit. We'll come back.
Yeah. That was honestly, the mom was just like, get out of the house. I don't know what he was gonna do, but it
That's
was really
crazy.
scary.
That
Yeah.
is crazy.
Hmm. And there's a place right down the street from us called Treasure Holt, which was it's in a lot of books. It's very haunted, but it also has to do with pirates, and there are tunnels under
Yeah.
the town I used to live in for their rum smuggling and stuff. Listen, the cemetery close to my house was from the 1100s. So it was an old ass place that I lived in,
Damn.
like an old town. So lots of
And I think the oldest we get
ghosts.
here is like 1700s. I think.
Oh my God.
I think.
I love it whenever my sister and I go in, they're like, it's so old. And it's like 1892. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, no.
wait, old.
Now, when I went to a friend's house, like, now I'm trying to think of how old we were. Definitely not teenagers yet. So we're probably like 11, 12. Had to be then.
Mhm.
So we're preteens. It's her birthday. What do we do on preteen girl's birthday? We make Ouija boards.
Of course you do. Love
and,
it.
and we try to talk to dead musicians like Kurt Cobain, because that's what we do when you're 12. You know.
Ah. Oh
So,
my
so
gosh.
again, this is Curtis. Literally down the street from my grandparents' house. So anyways, so there's like, I don't know, 6 or 7 of us. We're having a slumber party. Like, we're at her place. We got our cardboard out. We made our little, cardboard and glass. We're
Of
like asking all
course.
these questions. We're like, oh my God, we're talking to Kurt Cobain, blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember. And I had this like 24 karat like gold cross necklace. And I don't remember what happened, like what was said, but I was like, oh, and I went to touch my necklace and it shot off my neck, like broke at the back, shot off my neck across the room. Yeah. Yeah. These girls were screaming. We all ran upstairs. And I was like, no, I need my necklace.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we did that. We were like, okay, I think we're done with this. And we finished up and went to bed, finished our slumber party, went to bed. And I stayed over the next day. Like everybody left at like 10, 11, but we were really good friends. So I stayed. And her parents had to go out for a bit. I don't know if it was to get groceries or something. So they're like, do you guys want to stay home? Like, it's just going to be you. We're going to take, the younger brother. We're like, yeah, sure. Why not? Cool. We'll stay home. We're big kids now. Right. Yeah, we weren't that big. And we were sitting there at their like dining room table, and then like we're just chatting away, and all of a sudden this like potted plant behind the table just falls over.
What?
It just literally just falls over. Yeah, we screamed, we ran,
Lord.
we sat outside till her parents got back. So I think it was about 30 minutes. Yeah. I think we haunted.
That's amazing.
I think we screwed up.
Sorry, I'm just MIA for 1 second because all of a sudden my laptop's like, and I'm dead. And then I had to unplug everything. Okay, I'm back. I was listening the whole time.
I'm just talking to a bunch of creepy looking children.
Like, what the fuck?
Staring at me like, really?
I know. And so
well, I think we may have.
One like? What?
My story.
Yeah?
I think we may have caused her house to be haunted.
Well, so what did everyone do when the potted plant just fell over? Were they just like?
It was just me and my friends. So everybody had gone. So all the party, other girls had left that morning, and I was staying over. And her parents went out to get groceries and took the little brother with them. So it was just us two in the house, and we were just chatting, hanging out, sitting at the table. And I just remember this tree that was standing upright, no one near it, just goes, poof.
Oh my God.
And we ran.
I bet. Yeah. So you basically stirred up some shit and then was like, peace. And they've lived horribly ever after.
They didn't. They moved.
Oh. Well, whoever lives there now, it's Rachel's fault.
Yep, sorry.
But we'll come and investigate.
Yeah, I'm not saying where it is this time. Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
So those are, I guess, our experiences as kids. But have your kids ever had any experiences that they've told you about?
I don't. So I think when I first started learning Reiki and energy healing, my daughter was like, oh, can you like do a session on me? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I started doing the energy work, and she must have been like 8 or 9. And so anyone that doesn't know Reiki, it's just about your own inner energetic field. And I'm just placing my hands on her just to let the energy flow. And everything was good. And then all of a sudden she sat dead straight up and looked at me. She's like, don't do it anymore, Mommy. I don't want to see the things I'm seeing. And I'm like, what? She's like, I don't like it. I don't want to see it anymore. And I'm like, what are you seeing? And she wouldn't tell me. And then that was kind of it. And I'm like, okay. And she's never really like, she loves that I do this, but she's a bit standoffish.
Mm-hmm.
My son, on the other hand, he was totally into it. Like, we went to one of the Paranormal Seekers events before I was part of the crew. And he was really into it. We would watch the shows together. And now he's a teenager. He's like almost 16. He's like, whatever. Life. Boom. So now he's just like, eh. I think he thinks it's it's still cool that I go out and do it, and he likes listening to it, but he hasn't said that he's seen anything. But I know when we were on the investigation with you guys, we were at the Skugog Museum, and we were in the log cabin, and my son does not like the SLS camera. He hates the stick figures for some reason. And of course, that was used in the log cabin. And my son was like, I don't want to be over there because I don't want to see the stick figures on the thing. I'm like, okay, so go stand over there in the corner. So he's standing there, and the people who shall not be named, who was there at the time, they turn the camera and like just happened to pan across to him. And lo and behold, there's this little stick figure standing next to him. And it looks like it's holding his hand. And I'm like, don't move, buddy. And he's like, why? And I'm like, do you want to know? He's like, no. And then he's like, I feel it. And I was like, do you? Now, I don't know if you did or not. He's not one to make stuff up. But after that, he stuck pretty close to me for the rest of the night. But I think he thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Ethan hasn't really ever said anything. Like, well, when he was little, she's like, oh, the monster over there. And I was like, what monster? And he would point to the hallway. And I'd be like, okay. And then he would just go on his business. It didn't bother him.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a kid who sits in the dark like 90% of the time and watches horror movies. He's 12. Like, he don't care. He also wants to come out on an investigation.
Yeah.
Well, and lucky for him, his 13th birthday will fall on an investigation at Ameliasburg when we do our public event. So I told him for his birthday gift, he can come to that. But other than that, he hasn't said anything. Never.
Yeah.
Never. Except he was talking about cemeteries the other day, and I was like, he keeps, was that cemetery haunted? Is that cemetery haunted? I was just like, is he asking this because he knows what I do, or is he like genuinely asking? It's like, is that cemetery haunted? But yeah, no, other than that, for him, I guess it's just so normal for him because I've been doing this since before he was born, right? So it's just normal.
Yeah. And I think
for him, it's just normal.
But I think that makes a big difference. Culturally, if death is not shunned or is not a secret, if things are talked about, then I think children are more open, or at least maybe have a better understanding of what they see. Because they do say children are way more receptive, right? I mean, they are more open, certainly more intuitive and more in touch. And so I believe because their energies are more pure and they have more energy, they're like a beacon. And in my mind, ghosts, spirits, whatever you want to call them, are just energy. So it's almost like they see the beacon and maybe they're more, inclined to go towards a child. Or because children are more innocent, they're just more inclined to hang around them. And if kids see them, and it's just norm, maybe they don't say anything. But if it's talked about in a home, maybe they'll say, oh, okay, is that this thing that I'm seeing right here, blah, blah, blah. And vice versa. If it's shunned upon, like we don't believe in this, or, you're the devil, you're a witch, don't do that, don't even think of it, then they're obviously going to be quiet and not say anything.
Yeah, that's true.
So I wonder if the upbringing has something to do. So for Ethan, maybe he is seeing things, but it's just so normal to him. He doesn't feel like he needs to relay it. He probably thinks you see it too. He's probably just like, oh yeah, my mom's brought another one home.
I bet. And he bets. You also have to remember, like, he also is on the spectrum too, right? So that could also be it as well. Like, maybe it's just something that he just doesn't care about, so he's not going to put any effort into it.
Yeah.
Or it's, again, like you said, completely normal to him, and he sees things all the time, and he's like, yeah, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Have you heard of the telepathy tapes?
Yes.
So these are new to me, but I started listening to them. But the premise is, I actually wrote down the doctor's name. So it's a series of podcasts. Like it's the same person, but it's a series. Ty Dickens is the podcast host, but it follows a neuroscientist, Dr. Diane Powell, who kind of has this incredible idea that nonverbal, I guess autistic, but anyone on the spectrum who's nonverbal, any individual, but mostly children, are nonverbal but telepathic. And so she started getting a lot of information from parents that are like, my child can't speak, can read my mind, and communicates that with me via iPad, signs, whatever. So they started doing experiments. And these experiments were the parent would go in another room, would be shown a shape, a word, a number, and the child who's in a separate room doing whatever would, and I'm talking like 85, 90% of the time, correct. And they're like, what is happening here? And now there's this whole kind of idea that autistic children are just an advanced level of human. And it sounds like at first you're like, what the are we talking about here? But then you're like, wait, what? If we think about, all right, I'm going down a rabbit hole real quick. We'll circle back, trust me. All the times we hear about aliens coming, they're always telepathic, always. It's very rare that you ever hear a story of some alien coming to abduct someone and they're like, hello. They're always like, and they're just telepathically being like, you're fucked. Probing's happening. So now we have this big like influx of autistic children coming into the world. Is it because they're just of a higher vibration? And so they see a different frequency and are able to communicate in that way. In which case, are they going to be the ultimate ghost hunters because they'll be able to walk into an area and just tap right into that frequency or that vibration?
That's a good question.
Like, yeah, this is well, I'm starting to get into the podcast, but already I'm like, oh my God, like not just a few people. And this is around the world that they're doing. And this neuroscientist is not like, I'm going to prove it's true. She's kind of trying to prove that it's maybe not right. So it's not biased, like I've got to prove that it's right. It's just done really well so far. I haven't got super into it. And there is no scientific proof that these children are telepathic, but it's really interesting. So if we take, a person not on the spectrum, and they're able to kind of see, feel, hear, now take a child that is heightened, that does have more sensor driven like abilities. Holy shit. And you're right. Maybe too, Ethan, it's normal that these people are just walking in and out of the house and up and down the hallway or whatever else. So he's like, I see it. Obviously everyone else does. So I don't need to see anything. As opposed to, so who knows? Start grilling your child, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, I'm really tempted. I'm really tempted, but his favorite answer now is, I don't know. Yeah.
And
that's I don't know.
It's tricky, like how to not lead them into that answer, right? So it's I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting concept. And because we don't have children our events yet, it's hard for us to kind of see if, the only time we've really had kids, other than the recent one that we just had at the library, was that time at School Gog And it
Yeah.
was just my son and the other young boy, and he got really freaked out. Something happened in the schoolhouse, and he got extremely upset.
Mhm.
So I don't know. And again, is that just you're heightened
Yeah.
because you're in this scary place in the dark? Or is it because, and I don't know. I don't know how to prove that. And that goes for anyone really, adult or
Yeah.
child, but
Yeah. That's
I
true.
think there's something for kids, like
Oh, for
that
sure. Well, it's
they're
just
just
like,
on a different level.
yeah, it's just like some kids have imaginary friends and some don't. Like, are they
Mhm.
really imaginary or are they really dead people? It can
Exactly.
go both ways. You just never know, right? Like, you never know.
Yep. And again, trying to delve into that without the kid going, oh, they think it's a ghost, and then embellishing
Mhm.
because that's what they think you want to hear
Mhm.
is a really tough one.
Yeah. And that's like no different when you've got kids who do have abilities, right? Like you don't want them,
Mhm.
you don't want the bias, you don't want any of that kind of stuff, like all of like, giving them, feeding them information just because
Mhm.
you want to hear that answer, right? Like,
Exactly.
you know, I don't
Yeah.
know.
And it's tough. I think once they get to a certain age where they understand what it is and the fear kicks in, that also puts a damper on things
Hmm.
as
Oh,
well.
for sure. Oh, for sure.
So,
And especially if they can pick up on like their parents or their guardian, like if they can pick up on their fear over it, of course
yeah.
they react in that way because that's what is going on with their parents or their guardians. So they feel that they need to, you know, act the same way, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's very interesting.
But
I don't.
we definitely, as the Paranormal Seekers, need to do a kids program so we can see this and we can measure it and we can, experiment with things and see how their little
Mhm.
minds work. And that, because, we understand our kids and, we understand our friends' kids, but we don't
Mhm.
understand the stranger down the street's kid, right? And how this
Exactly.
stuff kind of affects them or how they're interested or like any of that kind of stuff, right? So,
Mhm.
but I think with like all the ghost shows on TV, it's becoming more and more, talked about and normal. And a lot of these kids are no longer scared to tell their parents about, the experiences that they're having or, the people they might be seeing that nobody else can and all that.
Yeah.
So, because we've done
Mhm.
those, like presentations. We've done that Mystic Market where we had kids come up
Yep.
and they were talking to us and telling us about the people that they see and how they're like the color of the wall and all that kind of stuff. And yeah,
Mhm.
Allison's really good at getting that information out of those kids because I just stand there. I'm like, damn, where you live? I want to
Yeah.
investigate.
Exactly. No, I think there's something to it, and definitely deciphering between are they legitimate or is this just,
Mhm,
them trying to be popular or something else,
mhm,
which goes for anyone, but
mhm. I
yeah,
will
it,
agree.
mhm.
I will
So,
agree. Now, we're
but I,
speaking of living kids, but let's talk about
yes.
ones that aren't living anymore. Now,
Mhm.
I don't think you believe this. I don't think anybody on our team believes this. And I can't remember what show it was on, but it was one of those like, I don't think it was Paranormal Caught on Camera, but it was like, Paranormal 911, something like that, right? Where they have like people like giving their experiences and then they have these experts come in to, yes, I'm one of those experts, but I don't call myself an
Yes.
expert. I'm just a person with a lot of experience. But anyways, um, and I can't remember exactly what show it was. I know it was a woman who said this, and it really irked me to the point that it made me quite angry. This person, they were talking about like children spirits and children ghosts and all that kind of stuff because I think obviously it had to do with the episode. And she said that children ghosts are here because they cannot cross over. The children ghosts cannot cross over. And I was like,
What?
that's bull. See,
Yeah.
literally,
What?
she said, a child ghost slash spirit, whatever she called, cannot cross over. They are not allowed to cross over.
So any deceased child then becomes a ghost because it can't cross over.
Apparently,
We're
according to
just
this person,
wading
I don't
through
know.
a sea of dead children ghosts everywhere because they can never cross over. What?
That was like the dumbest thing I ever heard. I'm like, literally, they are the closest thing to that part of their, right, to the afterlife, because we have all
Yeah.
aged up. They are still the closest thing. That's why half of them can remember what they were in a past life and all that kind of stuff. So why would you say something so stupid? And then, of
Yeah.
course, I was looking online before we started this just to see what else was out there. And there are some that actually believe this. They believe that because they are a child, they don't, understand what is going on. They're looking for their parents. A guardian is supposed to come down and get them. And sometimes those guardians are busy and they have to wait. That's literally what it said. And I was like, it's like waiting
Okay.
for the bus and just getting passed by the bus. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So the challenge is none of us really understand what happens when you pass away or what constitutes any ghost sticking around, right? So it's tricky to make that assumption or whatever claim. I can see if a child passed, especially if it's like quick or maybe like really traumatic, and then they kind of are like, uh-oh, I don't know where I am, and they're scared. They could then just be like, well, I don't want to go over there, let's say towards the light, because I'd want my mummy instead. So maybe, but again, we don't understand the whole crossing over part or what happens when we die. So we don't know what really takes place.
No.
And I would hope that there's not poor children stuck somewhere where they're scared because they don't want to go. But I don't think that every single child cannot cross over
No.
at all.
I'm sorry. That irked me when I
would think, I would think more so a child would cross over because, like if we're thinking, especially if something traumatic or horrible happens, and that's why a ghost stays, or this, how many times we hear, her husband didn't meet her at the altar and now she waits for him by the window. Like a child it doesn't know that, right? So they'll just be like, okay, off I go.
Yeah, they don't have unfinished business. They don't even have business.
Yeah,
right?
like, or if it was
innocent.
traumatic, they would likely not want to stay. They'd be like, I'm dipping. So we don't know. But I will say it's probably very creepy to come across a child. I guess it's creepy no matter what, but more so.
When I think about any of I've been doing like investigating for 21 years. It's so weird to say that.
You're so old.
There haven't, half my life, literally. I can only think of a few places where we've actually had children's spirits. Now they could be spirits and they could be ghosts. I don't know which ones they are. But when I worked at, and Allison, because we worked together at the escape room in Oshawa, that building is definitely haunted. There was a little girl there, and she kept saying like, "Oh, my name is Beth. My name is Beth." Right? She kept telling us like this name. So I'm like, "Who the heck is this?" Anyway, so I did the research and found out her name isn't even Beth. It's Helen. So we brought that information in, and she was just like, "Nah, I don't like my name. It's got a bad word in it." Hell.
Oh, hell. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So we're like, oh, okay. But that's okay. But she did end up, she died of, I can't remember what age it was, but it was under 10. And she died of, she had swelling of the brain. So yeah, like wow. So I don't know why she would be there, because it was her grandparents' house. It wasn't her
Right.
house, it was her grandparents' house, right? So maybe she had a lot of good times there and she's just visiting and or
Mhm.
hanging out when she feels like. But that's the only one like really we've ever come across like that.
We've
Um,
had a few times on either Necro or the Spirit Box, little children talking, which is always super creepy, or when they like laugh and you're like, oh, what the fudge? Because
yeah,
it's almost like, I don't want to say demonic. It just doesn't feel right, maybe. I
no,
guess because children should not be dead, right? So it never feels right, especially
yeah.
when, oh gosh, we have I can't even think where it is now. Um, we have a really good um EVP of, it's not an EVP. Well, I guess it's an EVP of a little child going, "Mommy," and I just found it on I think it's on my GoPro. I can't remember where it was. It might have been Wildwood. And it's really creepy because it's dead clear. And I don't even know that we hear it at the time, but
Ooh,
it's
ooh, I
really
got
eerie.
goosebumps.
I know. I've going through my stuff and I've written it down, but I was just like, are you kidding me? Like it's very creepy.
I'm going through those DVRs this weekend coming.
Yes, it takes a lot. Anyone that's like, I want to be a ghost hunter, you can be, but just prepare yourself for the hours and hours and hours of footage that you go over.
4 hours of audio is 4 hours of listening to it. But anyways,
Yeah. But I, yeah, I can't think of a place that we've gone specifically where they're like, I mean, most places they're like, um, the children of the thing or whatever are sometimes heard running and playing. I
so
don't know that we've heard
the
that.
Automotive Museum in Oshawa has two children, a boy and a girl.
Hmm.
Don't know why they're there. They're not attached to the building. They may have come in with a car. But yeah, so we did capture that little girl at middle of the night calling for Cameron.
Yes,
Um,
that's true.
I can hopefully post that. Maybe I'll have to see. I should be able to, but so you
Yeah.
can hear that. But you know, that's about as close as we've gotten to actually capturing a child spirit or ghost on our footage. I'm trying to think. I don't know. And there's the little boy girl at Jester's Court. But I've never had any interaction
Yeah, I
with
was gonna
that.
say. Mm.
Usually that's the cranky guy that we talk to most of the time. Where else?
Well, I guess in Settlers Village in the Dugan house, we get SLS pickup of like some
But is that a
children
kid?
in the thing.
Is that a
Well, and
kid?
that's true. I mean, SLS, we don't know.
It could just be some dude hiding in the freaking
It
pram.
could
Like
be a little person. I
I
don't
can't
know.
see
You're
him
right. I
here.
mean, back in those days, people were not overly tall, so
Yeah.
maybe it's just
No.
them. Or they're scrunched up because it's not like the SLS is necessarily proportionate. Remember
Mhm.
sometimes when they're like, wah. So who knows? Who
I don't think they're
knows?
necessarily proportionate either. You know, look at
No.
me. I'm gonna get big and see if they're like going too scared. No.
Yeah. I don't know.
When was the last time
Although,
we
like I said earlier at the Skoogog Museum in the log cabin, my son was standing there and there was this little person next to him, and then she like put
were?
her hand up to touch his hand. I think I might have that footage somewhere because I was over the person's shoulder videoing the SLS screen. My son's like this. He's just frozen and his face is like, ah.
That's the best. That's the best.
He was just like, I don't want to see it. I'm like, that's okay.
Oh my god, that is so
Um,
awesome.
and so then there's the whole um kind of thought that sometimes they're not kids, they're demons
Yeah.
disguised children, like the Sally house, which I don't know that I believe and stuff.
And you just
I
notice
don't know,
that
like,
when they're like evil, it's always a little girl.
yes. And like a little white Caucasian girl who's just like, I'm really nice. would you like some cookies while I murder you? Like, Jesus Christ. But like, I don't know that I believe in that, because here's the thing. If you're a demon and we're thinking whatever that they're real and they're like this scary monster, what? Why then would you why not just be the scariest monster? That's going to be more intimidating some little girl. I
I
guess
guess,
is it to try and like coax you
yeah,
into being
opening up
fooled?
and being good with whatever it is, and then once you open up and once you're comfortable with this, what's going on, they have more access to you. I've never had to deal with it, so I don't know, right? Like that's just
No.
what, I'm going on with everything that I've seen and read and, heard like throughout the years is like these like evil entities will, pretend that they are something that they are not. So something that you are comfortable with. So they get you comfortable. So you open up
Mhm.
and let your guard down, and then they could sneak in.
So crafty. Listen, if you want to take my soul, whatever is left of it, don't come at me with kids because I've got them. You're not going to coax me in that way. I'm not going to be like, oh, a kid. I'll be like, get the fuck out of here. Not
Get off my lawn.
exactly. Turn your music down.
Oh my God.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I tried to Google like specific places around that have predominant like children for sure, but there's not really,
Nothing. No.
no, not much. Elsewhere, there's lots. We could go to New Orleans. That place apparently has a lot of children.
It's like the whole state.
I know,
Like they're
but
all. Doesn't the
child
Hinsdale
labor.
house supposed to have a child, but it's not really a child?
Well, I mean, there's the picture of the girl on the
Yeah, that's
stairs.
true. But that could also be like what we discussed. I think that's a dandy. That's the
Yeah,
dandy, the dandy daughter. Because I did have that picture that looks pretty much identical. So
exactly. So I don't know. I didn't pick up. I mean, the kids' rooms were kind of bizarre, felt weird, but is that a child? I don't know. I don't know what was going on in that house. I couldn't specifically say
pinpoint.
like, oh, I felt this. I don't know. I'm looking
Mhm.
forward to going back with a clearer mind and some bat spray, and then we'll be good to go.
No, we won't.
No, we absolutely won't.
We'll
I
walk,
love
we'll walk
how
back in and be
how
like, oh, fuck.
I
Here
know.
we
I
go
was just gonna
again.
say, I love how Ryan's like, this time around. I'm like, this time around, you're gonna piss your pants again. We all know. We'll all end up huddled together
In the
in
corner
the living room once
as
again,
I sleep on it.
with you snoring log somewhere else and the rest of us chatting ourselves all night. But
Oh my
it's
God.
gonna be great.
Yes. Um, yeah, I can't think of any other really. I'm like going down the list in my head of places we've investigated. There was the little girl
Yeah,
Dominion at the Dominion Hotel,
that's true.
but but ghost or spirit, right? Like it's a
Yeah, like
fine line.
I
That you don't know.
don't think we throughout all of the stuff we captured, I don't it was more just Allison picking up on her and then
Mhm.
Sean Sean
Mhm.
um you know validating that yes, we have had stories of this girl,
Mhm.
but I can't say we had anything to indicate a child there.
Yeah, like that's pretty much it.
Yeah, like
I can't think of any other place where we've been to that we were solely focused on investigating and trying to communicate and documenting a child ghost.
no, not specific kids.
No. This I'm gonna have
No.
to look at my phone right now because when I'm like thinking of it, it's just like what I and which
So
is really surprising because you right like out of everything we've done like but it
I
also
mean
kind of
Hillary House we captured that potential image in the cradle.
but is that residual?
Exactly. Like again, I don't know that we had anything to indicate we were communicating with a child or specific stories like, and the children are here. Like
Mhm.
it's more just we're pretty sure a child passed there,
Mhm.
and then, potentially babies.
Mhm.
But other than that, there's nothing 100%.
So Fort Henry is said to have the ghosts of children there. I know there was children there. I know. There was a POW camp. There was a whole bunch of stuff. I know. There was kids there at some point. Even families live there. They say there's kids. There's the ghost of a little boy and a little girl in like the kitchen area, and they call them poltergeists.
Mm.
And then of course they were saying, "Oh, poltergeists are little spirits of children." It's like, no, it's not. Get your shit
What are
right.
you watching? God.
No, this was what they were saying on the ghost walk when we went, and I
Oh.
was like, no, 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 no. We need to fix this. No,
So
no.
I know Lang's
Mhm.
in the Keene. So I remember before we went and I had that like vision thing. I remember there being a little, I think it was a little boy that was crying. And then in the notes, there's a little boy who's there, apparently that haunts. I don't know.
I think it's just Martin and Mary Ann. Mary Jane. Mary Jane. Mary. I'm just gonna call her Mary.
I don't know. Listen, that place is effed up as per the video I just posted on the Paranormal Seekers showing all the crazy shit that happened last time.
I can't wait to go back to there too.
Oh, I love that place so
But
much.
we do have a public event. The Paranormal Seekers has a public event there at the end of May.
I know.
No,
Ah,
no. I'm just looking at all the places that we've investigated and I'm
yeah.
not finding
I'm trying to think,
anything.
and like, there's nothing specific. Well, then I guess
Oh,
we ask.
yes,
Oh,
there's one place. Okay, Uxbridge Historical Center. So it's like another little pioneer village. We did have that little girl, May. You weren't there with us. This is before you.
yeah. I'm like, what?
Um, in the Carmody Gold House, there's a little girl named May, but her dad is there with her because we have the EVP. Well, not EVP, but I should say communication through the ghost box of us asking who's there, and you hear a little girl say, like, say her name, like May, right? And she was 4 years old when she died. And this
Mhm.
literally sounds like a 4-year-old. And I can post this too as well. It's on the Paranormal Seekers YouTube, but um it literally she sounds like she's literally 4 just by the way it comes across. And she died
Right.
she died from cancer. Like it literally
Oh,
says on her
God.
death certificate cancer. She died in like 1897 or something like that.
Oh,
Um
Lord.
yeah, and it was really interesting because at the end of the night when we were like, oh, is it your bedtime, like it's time for you to go to bed, um we captured on the SLS, and I think this might be posted too, I'm not quite sure, but there's this little stick figure and a big stick figure side by side, and they look like they're
Oh,
holding hands
oh
to go
my
up the
God.
stairs to the bedrooms. So there is that. But again, I don't know if that's a ghost or a spirit, or maybe we're just seeing a residual energy. He took her to bed.
Yeah.
He's going to bed. So there was that.
What about where was that? Sorry. Where was that you
Uxbridge,
just said?
Uxbridge Historical Center.
So what about Welland? Was it Welland? That poorhouse that you guys went to? That
Mhm.
had a lot of like
I
every
think,
kind of person, but a lot of
yeah, but
children
I
would have
think a
been
lot
there.
of I think a lot of the ones that are still there are former owners and
Right.
those who had intellectual handicaps, disabilities. They had Down syndrome. They were, disabled intellectually, so they weren't all their faculties weren't all there. They may have had like the mind of a child, even though they were an adult type thing. So I think a
Mm,
lot of that is there. We did have Ameliasburg in the log cabin. There were 2 boys, but those boys didn't die as children. They were older men when they passed away, but I guess they've come back as child. So again, I don't understand
what?
that.
Yes. We have more questions.
I know.
I
Like,
don't know. Well, I guess we need to put it out to our listeners/viewers. hook us up with a place that's specifically for children. We watch the children.
We did we did
Oh.
investigate the Palmyra Historical Museum, and that has a really awful, awful, awful backstory, but we don't think we came across any children. Because yes,
Yeah.
6 children died on that property due to a house fire with their mother.
Ugh.
And they put the museum on top of the old foundation. So in the basement, there's still a lot of burnt rubble
Damn.
and burnt items. Yeah.
Ooh.
Mhm.
What about Skoogog, the schoolhouse? Did children die
Again,
there?
I don't know if it's
I never get that.
residual. Yeah. It's really hard. Like, I'm so like,
Jesus Christ. Sorry. My leg, I was sitting on my leg and I was like, oh, my leg hurts. And I went to stand up and my leg was like, nope. I just nearly died.
yeah,
Okay, I'm fine. The children behind me are getting me. Stop.
I would talk about black-eyed children, but that's a whole other podcast.
Oh, God. Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Well, I don't know,
later.
people. I mean, what do you guys think? You think there's ghost children?
Yeah.
Do you
You
think
know a
children
place?
see ghosts? Hook us up with a place. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those like dot 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 kind of situations because
We just don't know.
I
There's no
just
definitive
yeah.
answer. Like, it's not like,
No.
you know, I know people are studying it for science and all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
there's nothing out there that says anything like this is this, this is this, this is this, right? So yeah,
Well, we
Wow.
just have to keep on exploring.
damn straight. Damn straight. But if you think you know, you can let us know.
Yep.
You know. But you can send us an email at paranormalpodcast@gmail.com. That's PAREHNORMAL podcast@gmail.com, because you know we're Canadian. And like how you're laughing. Yeah, so but you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Just look up Paranormal Podcast. We're there. We post ridiculous videos, some good videos, bunch of stuff. Yeah, we're just special. So that's this week's podcast of kids and the paranormal, whether they're dead or alive. Book it now. I'm just going to put my kid to bed, which is terrifying.
Yes, scariest thing all night. Well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, and next week is a road trip, but not a real road trip. We're just going on one in our heads.
Yes.
One I've been on many times, and one my kid just asked me to take him there.
Nice.
Yeah, because we were talking about what to do in the summer, and he's like, "Let's go to this place." I'm like, "Okay,
done.
I'll do it." But we definitely should go because, yeah,
yeah, I'm down.
If anybody hasn't figured it out so far, it's a road trip to Kingston. We're going to tell you all about Kingston, Ontario. And there's this really, really cool cemetery there called the Cataraqui Cemetery. You haven't been, have you?
No.
Okay, we're going.
The amount of times I've been to Kingston and have not been, I've been to cemeteries, but not that one.
We'll go to that one. And then we'll also go to another one that doesn't have any tombstones. It has a park in the middle of it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. But yeah, anyways, okay, guys, have a great week. Stay dry because it's gonna rain. But by the time you listen to this, it's gonna be done raining, I hope, and back to being warm.
Yay! Spring. Boom.
Yeah, because when this posts, we're going to be an hour ahead. Yay!
Woo!
Let's have closer to summer. All right, have a great week, everybody.
Bye.